Welcome to the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. This episode is brought to you by Authors Unite. Authors Unite provides you with all the resources you need to become a successful author. You can learn more about Authors Unite and join the free community at authorsunite.com. Now, let's jump into the episode. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. Today I have Darci Smith with us. She is a career coach and extremely funny. So welcome to the show, Darci.
Thanks for having me. Man, I have a lot to live up to after that intro, huh?
Just a little bit. We'll see how it goes.
All right.
The first question I have for you, Darci, is what is the best story from your life that has an underlying valuable message?
So I guess the best story for me, it actually has to do with an injury. So I am a career coach, obviously, and I work with student athletes, basically helping them get jobs out of college. I was a student athlete myself, and so when I was focused on going to college, my whole thing was, okay, I'm a soccer player. I'm going to go Division I. I'm going to be the best I can be at soccer, and that's my whole main goal. And so when I did that, I got to college. I got that goal. By my senior year, I unfortunately tore my ACL, which every women's soccer player you've probably heard of ever has. But at the time, it was just like, that was the end for me. I was like, what am I going to do now? I didn't do any internships. My whole dream was to go on and play professionally. I wasn't sure, what I was going to do. I admittedly cried a lot. And so I kind of took it as a, what other areas could I become stronger at and turn my life into maybe someone who can't lead on the field and play, but maybe I can come in a different way. And, I was now the girl who's pumping everyone up in the locker room, and I was really showing that leadership side of me. And that took me into my business career. So I'm saying that in the, underlying message with anyone who goes through injuries or anything that's kind of like that obstacle feeling. When you learn how to turn that into a positive, I think was huge for me, especially being like 21 and, not being at my most mature age in college. So turning that into a positive was just really awesome and kind of bringing me to where I am today. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's definitely tough. And thanks for sharing the story with us. The next one I have for you, Darci, is what is the most valuable piece of information we should know that's within your expertise or industry?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I love it because it's actually a question that I've been getting a lot. So being that I mentor and help student athletes, we help them to interview prep. So something that's really important in my line of work is getting people confident and excited and being able to sell themselves in an interview. And this is something I think everyone can take with them, whether they're interviewing and selling themselves or if they're pitching a product or whatever the case is. You want to walk away from that conversation knowing that you got the sale or knowing that you got the next interview. So my favorite piece of advice and what I tell all of my candidates is before you leave that interview, before you leave that pitch, make sure you ask, is there any reservations or any concerns you have with me or, before moving me forward in this process? And at that moment, the employer or whoever you're speaking to is going to say, no, actually, I think you're great. And I think we're going to move you forward. Or they're going to bring up something that you can address right on the spot. So I think that's like a great piece of advice to take with you anywhere you go. Make sure walking out of any conversation you have, like, yes, I feel confident about that.
Yes, that's huge.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thanks.
And next one is what is your best piece of overall business advice? So it's not necessarily industry specific.
Yeah, overall business advice. I'm pretty young and I'm still learning. So for me, I think it changes pretty often. But right now, I think I've found that focusing on my wins has made me a much more happy person, a much more successful person, instead of dwelling on, maybe things that go on during the day. And I'm like, man, like, I can't bounce back from that. Like I got someone an offer, they turned it down, or I helped someone and they didn't get the they went on the interview and they didn't get the job. And I started to dwell on those and start to like look internally and what I'm doing wrong, which obviously is great to learn from. But when I started focusing more on the wins I was getting and the positive feedback and people referring me to other friends, and I started just becoming more positive. And it turns out, things start to fall into place when you realize you can focus on all the good that's going on and only take certain times in your day to learn from your mistakes and, push them to a positive. So at the end of the day, I think, as cliche as it might sound, just like being happy and smiling through the day, no matter what happens, focusing on those wins and just being, man, I sound ridiculous, but being like super positive. It's like I said, cliche, but I get really pumped about it, and I hope others can kind of take that with them.
No, I'm similar. It's not that. And I know that you're young, but if you could give your even younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
So I know we started this podcast off by saying I'm extremely funny, and the reason I like to say that is not necessarily because I think I'm funny. I mean, let's be honest, I kind of do, but I think it's because it's what makes me who I am, what makes me happy. And I've realized that if I'm having fun and if I'm laughing and if I'm having a good time, then everything else just falls into place. So piece of advice for myself is don't stress over the little things. I mean, when I was younger and when I was in college, I was so worked up about every little thing, about getting an A on a test. And I think I cried the first time I got a B. And I look back and I'm like, wow, that's what I was crying over, So now I look back and I'm just like, man, like enjoy the moments that you have with friends and family and all that kind of stuff, and just laugh through everything. And like, it feels so good. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Be funny, be happy, and laugh a lot.
Well, that ties perfectly in with the next one is, in your opinion, what is the key to happiness?
Oh, good jokes. Good jokes for sure. I think that, if you can be around people that are making you laugh, you're going to be happy. I mean, how can you not, have an upbeat, positive, happy attitude when you're laughing, right? Also, I think that, something that goes in hand with that is like finding something you're passionate about. I started off in the corporate world. That was my first job out of college. And, I thought it's what I wanted. And I was happy. I was going through my day, and it's what my dad did for 30 years. He worked for the same company, went up the ladder, and I was like passionate about that. Like, I'm going to be VP and go up and like own this company. And so, once I realized, I started wanting to kind of be my own boss, I kind of stepped away from the corporate world, and now, I do things on my own, and I make my own schedule, and I, focus so much on what makes me excited and something I'm passionate about. And I think I'm very, very lucky. I'm 26 and I feel like I've actually found my calling. Like if I could paint a picture for what I want to do, I don't know if you can hear it through my voice, but I'm just so passionate about it. And so I think key to happiness is finding that thing you can get behind, even if it's a side hustle. I mean, say you have a job and you just want to like make t-shirts or do something that like is something you're passionate about, go for it. Do it now.
And what is the best book that you've read, and what was the number one thing you learned from that? Tough.
I'm on the spot now. I am not a reader, admittedly. I'm not going to fake it.
Maybe not so tough then.
I am not. Yeah. I mean, I just picked up a book on crystals, so that's where I'm at right now.
Oh, so cool. Tell us about that. I want to learn about that. Crystals.
Yeah. I don't know. I've just kind of really gotten into, I just think they're cool. They're fun to look at.
Do you mean
you
like
can use them for energies?
Yeah, the spiritual side. I'm into that. That's cool.
Yeah, so I picked up that book. I've read a decent amount of Spark Notes in my life, but honestly, I'm pretty big into like self-help books that are a little bit more sarcastic. So there's one right now I'm reading actually. So I guess I do read, but there's one called "You're Not That Great," and neither is everyone else. By Elon Gale.
I like the title.
Yeah, it just kind of makes you think. It was like, when you read it, you think about how, the things you stress over, so does everyone else. And it's kind of, a little heartwarming to think, everyone's going through this. And if you understand that, and, when you're out and about and you're feeling like people are looking at you and you're nervous, I mean, everyone else feels that way too. So I think, that's a good one. Definitely a good read.
And what is your favorite quote and why?
Oh, favorite quote. Man.
And it doesn't have to be word for word. It could be like a mantra or something like that too.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing, I'm going to go cliche, but it makes my life a whole lot easier. I love the words, do what makes you happy. So sometimes when people are like, why would you do that? Or if you get a tattoo and they ask you, why would you get that? What's the meaning? I'm like, I just like it. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good way to live your life, and a good way to, no matter what you do, if it's making you happy, then go for it.
Perfect, Darci. Thank you so much for coming on. It was extremely funny. And the last question I have for you before we let you go is, where's the best place for people to find or connect with you online?
Yeah, of course. I am extremely active on LinkedIn. I work with anyone and everyone. We focus on student athletes. I work for a company called Athletes to Careers. You can check out that website. But for the most part, we definitely help anyone we can, whether that's with resume writing, interview preps, all that kind of stuff. And it's all a free service. So my name is Darci Smith. You can find me on LinkedIn. My email is dsmith@athletestocareers.com. So feel free to reach out.
Perfect. Thanks again for coming on, Darci. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.